everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of Beyond the Finish Line. I'm going to consider this my lucky number today. We have a special guest, my friend Amber Graziano. Amber is, first of all, she's a friend to me. She's a sober badass, an ultra distance athlete. She's one of the most motivational people I know. She's founder of Road Recovery Runners. And I've been wanting to talk with Amber for quite a while, and you know, I'm really stoked to have her on today. So I can't wait to have her on. Also, let's do a little housekeeping for the podcast. If you would, please like, share, rate, or review the podcast wherever you get your content for the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. We can't do this show without your support, so it means so much to us that you're here. So if you could just go ahead and click that like button, click that share button. We appreciate it. And without further ado, let's bring Amber forward for this fantastic chat. Hey, Amber, how's it going?
Hey, Joe, I'm good. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I guess let me preface this podcast for anybody listening. So I started following Recovery Road Runners, Facebook group. I think it's been a couple of years now, and it was already picking up a lot of steam. And I kind of lurked for a really long time, and just since I've kind of been an active member, the growth of this group is fantastic. I don't know what we're at now. I think over 3,000, 2,000, almost 3,000 members of this group. It's huge now. And this group has led me to many friendships. Vinny, I couldn't say enough about Doug Figlis. He's, like I was joking in the back room, or the green room. Doug is, I consider, dear friend. He's kind of become my guru over the past couple of years. Sorry, Doug, but and also we all host the Recovery Roadrunners podcast together, and so I've always kind of wanted to have you, on this side of the mic and on my podcast. So this is a pretty unique opportunity. I'm glad we got to get you together for this, and I kind of like to start all my podcasts out with all my guests just diving into the deep end of the pool and asking, who is Amber Graziano? I know it's a big question, but I figure we'll just get right into it.
All right. Well, thank you for the warm welcome. That was amazing. I'm super happy to have you in Recovery Roadrunners. You've become a great addition to our group. And like you said, we have made so many friends in there. Okay, so let me give you kind of a brief synopsis of who I am. I'm a natural born athlete. I grew up playing competitive softball, and it was my dream to become a pro softball player. So I actually got a Division I softball scholarship to Baylor University, and I threw it away by partying too much. I literally sat the bench all year long. At the end of my freshman year of college, my coach sat me down and he's like, you know what? We're not going to renew your scholarship. And so that was all due to alcohol. And I was completely lost. I was a mess. I felt like my life was over. So I moved back. That was Texas. I moved back to California, and I'm like, okay, I've got to pivot here. But I didn't see alcohol as the problem. I saw the coach as the problem. So for a long time, I was just drinking too much and trying to keep my life intact while things were crashing and burning around me. So that was really what should have been my wake up call. Like, hey, you should probably stop drinking so much. You're out of college now. But sometimes I'm not a very fast learner, Joe. So that didn't really wake me up. So all throughout college in my 20s and my 30s, I'm like, okay, now what direction is my life heading in? I worked as a waitress. I worked as a nanny. I eventually got my teaching credential, and I taught second grade for 10 years. And that was right around the time I started teaching. I met my then husband, who's now my ex-husband. We got married. We had 2 kids really quickly. And that was when everything changed for me, was when I had kids and I was still drinking a lot. I'm talking about, I went from drinking a bottle of wine to 2 bottles of wine to a box of wine. I was just the biggest drinker, and I had 2 kids in diapers and a full-time job, and that's when I really almost hit rock bottom. I kind of saw myself from the outside, and I knew that if I didn't make a change, that I was going to lose everything. And so I was lucky enough to realize that before I did lose anything. And so I decided to get sober, and it was the best decision of my life. I only wish I had done it sooner. I forgot to mention that after I threw my softball scholarship away, I started running, and I started with 5Ks and 10Ks into half marathons and then marathons. And I even ran the Boston Marathon with a hangover. But it's funny? I'm not the only one I know who's actually done that. So if anybody listening has also done that, we can be friends. So yeah, I got sober. I started looking for some sober friends because it's really lonely sometimes in sobriety. And I thought, I wonder if there's any other sober people out there. I wonder if there's any sober runners out there. So I started Recovery Roadrunners, and here we are.
Amazing. So how long have you been sober? I guess I think I know the answer to that, but how long have you been sober?
My sobriety date is May 26, 2020. So I'm
Nice.
coming up on 4.5 years.
Oh, that's awesome. If you don't mind, so I've heard the Boston Marathon hangover story, but could you share that with us? I for some reason that always I never get tired of hearing that story. If
Yeah.
you would.
So I was 21, living in San Diego, and I ran the San Diego Marathon at 3:33, and I qualified for Boston. And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm going to Boston. So that was June 2003. Somewhere between June 2003 and April 2004, I managed to gain like 30 pounds. I basically stopped running because I'm like, oh, I got Boston in the bag. I'm going to Boston. Like, I'm so fast. So funny. And I was 21, so my drinking increased, and I just took it for granted. So I go to Boston with my parents, my brother, my boyfriend, my brother's friend. We all go, and we're so excited. And we do all the sightseeing tours and everything. So the night before the race, we go out to dinner, and everybody's drinking red wine, me included. And so I have some red wine and some spaghetti, and I'm like, yeah, I'm in Boston. This is great. But the next morning, I woke up with a hangover, and I was like, dang, I drank too much again. Shouldn't have done that. And so it was really hot that year too. And so a hangover and the heat is just a bad combination, Joe. And so I remember I was just running so slow, like 2 minutes slower than my normal pace. And my brother was hopping around from spot to spot. He catches up with me at mile 18, and I'm like, Colby, I don't think I'm going to miss. I'm not going to finish this race. And he's like, what? Yes, you are. We did not come all the way to Boston for you to drop out of the Boston Marathon. You walk if you have to, but you get your butt to the finish line. And I'm like, you're right. I can't drop out. That would be so stupid. And so I just ran it in real slow, and I ran a 4-hour, 25-minute marathon, almost an hour slower than my qualifying time. And I was like, that was weird. I wonder why I ran so slow. It just didn't occur to me that it was the boozing.
Oh wow. Like I used to be a drinker too. Obviously that's how we met. And I will I will say one thing, nothing hurts more than like a wine hangover too. So I couldn't imagine being hot and then running. Like luckily I got sober before I ever started running, so I never got to I never got to experience that. But that sounds awful, but also you like pretty badass that you still finished. So congratulations on that. But so okay, so you kind of mentioned that you've been an athlete your whole life, and you ran like 5Ks, 10Ks, and obviously the Boston Marathon. But so did you give up running for a while and then pick it back up, or how did that timeline work
I never
for you?
stopped running,
Never stopped running?
but my mileage went way down. Sometimes I would only run like 2 or 5 miles a week, and it would only be to get back to baseline. Like I woke up hungover every single day. That was just my normal. And so a lot of times I would say, okay, I'm going to run a mile or two, I'm going to sweat out the alcohol, and then I'm going to feel better. So I was using running to feel normal again, but it was not my finest years. But I guess I would go through phases of like a little bit of running and then a lot of running. And I ran 2 or 3 marathons every year. So I would train a lot and then like, okay, I'm done with that. Just very sporadic.
Okay. So tell me, tell me when that shift went from, I mean, as I mentioned before, you're an ultra distance runner. So tell me when that shift went from like you were running before, the road race stuff that you were doing. When did that shift to ultra marathons? Like when did that actually come to be?
It's a great question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that. So when I got sober, I went back into marathons. I'm like, okay, this is great. This is going to give me something to do. Running is a great outlet for stress, and it's going to fill my time to help me stay sober. So the first thing I did in the very beginning was I signed up for the Sacramento Marathon. So I ran that marathon, and then I signed up for a couple more. I started losing weight. I started feeling really good. And it was right around 1 year or maybe 1.5 years of sobriety that I decided to go past the marathon distance and into my first 50K, which was huge for me because all
Yeah.
my life I had a ceiling at the marathon. Never thought I was going to go further, never thought I needed to or wanted to or could. But sobriety is my superpower, and it gave me the confidence to try it. So I went and ran my first 50K and I loved it. I met the best people at that race. It was so much fun. As soon as I crossed the finish line, I signed up for another 50K. So I ran 3 or 4 of those before running my first 50-mile race, which was the Dick Collins in Castro Valley, California. That race is hard. It was very hilly, like over 10,000 feet of vert.
Oh wow.
So that one kicked my butt. And I remember thinking, like, is this too far? Like, can I even finish this? I did a lot of walking at the end, but I finished right around 13 hours.
Oh
And then
wow.
after that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to sign up for another. So I've run 4 or 5 50-mile races. And I did my first attempt at a 24-hour race this February. It was Paso Robles. It was a 24-hour event, and I wanted to go 100 miles. So I gave it my best, but I didn't make it. I made it to 77 miles, and my feet started, they were blistering. I felt like my stress fracture from last year was kind of creeping back in. So I was not sure if I should pursue it and keep going or if I was on the verge of like hurting myself. So I talked myself into stopping and I stopped at 77. But I'll tell you what, the next day I was like, you should have kept going. You
Oh
could have
man.
made it. You could have made it because it's not like I didn't make the cutoff time. I just decided to stop. So what I learned from that was if you think you want to stop and drop out, just walk until you feel better because it goes in waves. And lots of runners know that you're going to feel like crap, and then 10 minutes later you're feeling great, and then like crap, and then great. So if I had just rode that wave, I probably would have caught a second wind, and then I would have gotten to 85 and then 90, and then I could have like seen the finish line. So I wish that I hadn't quit. And so ever since February of this year, I've had it in my head, I got to try again. So that's what I'm going to do. I signed up for Backyard Ultra, the
Yes.
NorCal Backyard Ultra in November of this year. I'm going for 100.
Yes. Oh, that's rad. I know you know how much I love backyard, so it's so cool. You're gonna get your hundo. So yeah, that last run that you did, we were Yeah, we were all rooting for you. You know, Vinny was keeping up with like the Facebook posts, and so you had a big cheer squad on your side for that one. It was cool to get a glimpse of that while it's happening. You know, I'm over here in the Midwest. You guys are on the West Coast, so it was kind of cool to like wake up and like, because I mean, you went for a really long time, you know. So I would like wake up in the middle of the night and be like, "What's Amber? Where's Amber at?" And
Yeah.
um,
I know. It was really cool. I knew I had like 2,000 people rooting for me, which was a great feeling. And at the same time, I was like, oh, I can't drop out. All these people are counting on me. They want me to do it. And so it was an internal battle for sure, not wanting to disappoint people. But at the end of the day, I did what I did.
yeah, Vinny said something to me that I don't know if I've ever told Vinny this, but before my last ultra, my 50K, same thing. You know, I had triple R people rooting me on, so that really carried me through. And by the way, we were all just as proud of you for the 77 miles. It was really awesome. Um, but I've always wanted to tell Vinny this whenever I get the chance to actually face to face talk with him. Maybe one day I'll wrangle him in for this, but he said something to me. He said, "You're going to want to quit. It's going to be the hardest shit you've ever done, but you know you're going to get over that feeling, and you're going to be able to keep going. Because if you quit, you need to keep in mind how you feel tomorrow." I'm paraphrasing what Vinny said, but so yeah, same thing. It's like you feel terrible. You kind of ride that wave out, but you're going to get it this time. That backyard's all yours. I know it is. So
Yeah,
it's
I learned a lot of lessons that I think I needed to learn to evolve to the next level. Those are some really hard lessons. Like, like how much pain is too much pain? What is pain versus injury? Like it's a fine line sometimes, but now I know that's what it's supposed to feel like at mile 77. So now when I feel that next time, I'm going to be like, okay, I've been here before. I can do this.
I wasn't like complaining, but I was a couple backyards ago. Like, you know, we were all kind of running together at the start line. Someone goes, "How do you feel?" I was like, "Well, my legs hurt," and they're like, "Yeah, like that's reasonable, right? It's supposed to hurt at this point." But man, backyards are tough. You know, like if you don't have like your organization together, like that's what got me in my last backyard. I think I got a little disorganized, and and I was like kind of having to like really quickly eat my nutrition, and I didn't leave myself enough time to like troubleshoot. And I started having like a little bit of tendon pain. I just didn't have the time to deal with it. So, like Jason just said, the backyard is current Everest. It's a tough format too. Hourly cutoffs, and you know you kind of have to keep your pace pretty much squared away the whole time too. But I have absolute faith in
Yeah.
you for this one. So
Yeah,
cool,
that's
yeah.
hard. Yeah, you
So,
know what? It is really hard. It's totally different than just 100 miler. Because like you said, it's start, stop. And I've practiced this and we've been rehearsing it, and we ran 45 miles one weekend, like 11 rounds or something. And like the stopping part, sitting down and getting stiff and then starting again, that's the hardest part. It's like your body doesn't want to go again, but you have to do it over and over and over again. There's no way around it. So I've learned a lot of tips. I'll tell you a couple things I've heard. People say you need to take a power nap, like a 5-minute nap. I heard that from Harvey Lewis. I've heard somebody say, like, when you come in and finish your yard, do a little walking and then stand and then sit. Like, don't just go from running to sitting down or laying. That'll shock your body. And then don't go from laying down or sitting down back to like running fast. You got to go like from laying to sitting to standing to walking to running, and get your body like the blood pumping again, like like shake out like the muscle soreness. So there's really a lot of strategy behind it, behind actually going as far as you want to go. And like you said, the fueling is probably the most important thing. And man, I'm so good at messing up my fueling during a race. In fact, when I did the 77 miles, Vinny and I bonked it bad because the race started at 5 o'clock p.m. And so we
Oh
had
man.
like lunch, but we didn't have dinner. And then during the race, it was dinner time. So my body and my brain is like, hey, you should be having dinner. So then I was like, make me a Beyond Burger. Don't
Oh,
eat a
nice.
Beyond Burger during an ultra marathon, guys. Like, don't do it. So I had GI issues for 6 hours. I just had the worst stomach pain. And I was just like, God, this is the first 20 miles. Like, why did I do that? So, like I said, I'm kind of a slow learner sometimes. And
Oh,
I've got to learn the hard way. But these are lessons that I've learned that I'm going to take with me. He said he had 2 Impossible Whoppers during Cocodona. Oh my gosh. So
uh,
he's not on board with not eating impossible. Okay. You know what? When you run for that many hours, and I've never run Cocodona, damn.
whew.
But when you run for like 12, 18, 20 hours, you're starving.
I have had an Impossible Burger post Ultra, and it treated me pretty well. But I don't think I'm quite. Um, I don't think I quite have the stomach as these 200 milers do. Yeah, no way. Yeah, so Jason and Jason's done Cocodona. I think the very first year they had it, if I remember correctly. And the co-host of What's in Your Earbuds and Fireside Chats, um, has done. Oh God, he's doing the Triple Crown this year. So those guys know a lot about fueling during long events.
Impressive.
Yeah, I will not be trying Impossible Whoppers at my 100 miler.
Dude,
That's for
lesson
sure.
learned. And I know we're both vegan, so we can talk about that if you want, but
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
know
was
what I'm
definitely
going
going to
to
get into
eat.
that.
I know what I'm going to eat. I know what I'm going to drink every hour. The same thing. Vinny's trying to tell me that we're only going to eat gels and drink our electrolytes, and it's going to be very simple and very boring. But that's to save our stomach. It's just I don't want to think about what I'm going to eat or what I'm going to drink. I'm just going to have my bottles filled. I'm going to have my gels. I'm thinking I might have like some white rice or some Uncrustables. I know you're an
Yeah.
Uncrustable
Oh
guy.
man.
So I
We could do
don't
a whole
know if
podcast
I'm
about
gonna,
that.
yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna go all gels. We like Morton's gels, or if I'm gonna mix in a little bit of food. But I've got about 45 days to decide.
Nice. Yeah. I think I'm going to stick with gels from 100 mile. I did gels and Uncrustables and Tailwind for my 100K. And like same thing. It's just so simple. I basically was eating on like a timer. So like, half past the hour, top of the hour, sip, salt pill. But I'll probably throw in some ramen or something. There's something about like a 3 a.m. like cup of ramen that always treats you well at those things. So,
Oh yeah.
oh man.
We love ramen. And Jason said Oreos. Yes, Oreos are vegan, of course. I mean, the vegans have to have some good food too. And for some reason, I never go for the Oreos during the race. I never go for the sweets. I always go for the salty and the sandwiches, but never the sweets.
I did what are like the generic like the Aldi's brand Oreos, like the duplex, they're like vanilla and chocolate. I did those almost exclusively for my last 24 hour. I did. They actually treated me pretty well, but it took me like a month before I could look at them again. But so so yeah, when's that backyard? I know it's in October.
It's November 8th.
November. No, October is the retreat, which we'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
November 8th. I need to remember that because obviously I'll be on the page rooting for you. Um,
Tracking every hour. You know, you better be texting me every hour and being like,
like,
keep going,
keep
stick to
going.
your fueling, stick to your plan. And then, like 20 hours in, you better be like, don't quit.
And you'll have Benny with you. If I don't like that guy is a tough act to follow with motivate. He sent me some of the most motivational, like really simple one sentence things that had like like I said, I use this quote. He said this thing he texted me like a year ago for almost all my ultras. So having Vinny with you would be a big help too.
For
Um,
sure.
yeah, I'm jazzed for you. So um, so something I really want to talk about. It's because it's something it's dear to me. It's an organization that's dear to me, and obviously it's very dear to you that you're the founder of it. I want to talk about Triple R, Recovery Roadrunners. Um, First of all, why did you start Triple R?
Well, I was just lonely in sobriety, and I had lost all my friends, let them all go, said goodbye to my drinking buddies, but I found myself like alone. I didn't have anybody to talk to or hang out with, and so I started looking around, and AA, it was not the place for me to find like new buddies. So I just went on Facebook and created this group, and actually the idea came to me in a meditation. Meditation is one of my superpowers and strategies for sobriety. And so I was just thinking about it, like, how am I gonna like create, new friendships and meet new people? And it just popped into my head. And so I started the Facebook page, and it started out really, really small. And then just by word of mouth, very organically, people started coming and coming and coming. And now we're at 2,500. But I feel like there's so many more people that still don't know about us. We don't do any advertising or anything like that. But doing stuff like this is a great way to get the word out. And so Recovery Roadrunners is for, trail runners and walkers and hikers and bikers and athletes of all kinds. We're not just solely runners. So I have people, they're like, well, I used to be a runner. Can I be in the group? Well, I'm a walker. Can I be in the group? Like, yes, join us. And we're also for the sober curious too. I love to invite people in who are sober curious. They're like, I heard about this group. Like, I'm still drinking, but I can see how it's like negatively impacting my life. Can I come and hang out? And just like you said, lurk in the shadows. I'm like, yeah, come on in, gain some inspiration, like see what's up. Because I think a lot of people, they really don't know what recovery really is, and they're very curious about it. So we love to show people like we're just real people. We're regular people. We're not sitting around in dark rooms depressed. Like, this is our new life. Like, we've been reborn. This is amazing. We want to share it with people. So it's a really fun place to hang out. People share the best, most inspiring stories, and they post about their races. And of course, they'll share their struggles and ask for help. And we've got different things that you can get involved in. We have the retreat coming up in San Luis Obispo next week, which, Joe, I wish that you were coming so that you and me and Vinny and Doug and everybody else could hang out together. But I know it's way too close to your 100-miler. But
Yeah,
we have the
yeah.
retreat. And so we've got 11 people coming from all over the country, and it's going to be amazing. We're going hiking, biking, paddleboarding. We're running a race at Montana de Oro. We're going to do a little running clinic. Of course, we're going to do yoga and meditation. And it's going to be really cool. And so we do, besides the retreats, we also do like wellness workshops. We have group training. We have one-on-one coaching for people who want to work with me. I'm a certified run coach and certified addiction recovery coach. So after I left my teaching job, I tried to do teaching and coaching together for a couple years, and it was just not working. I was just too busy. And so I decided to let teaching go and go all in on the coaching. And so it's been really great over the past couple years to just focus on the group. And we're trying to help people. We want to normalize sobriety and show people that like we really do live our best lives after alcohol, because we have more energy, we have more time, our running is way better, we look way better. There's just so many benefits of sobriety that people come to experience for themselves, but also they build these relationships. Like you said, you have some of your best friends now in the group, and I mean, I consider you a good friend, although we've never met in person. We talk to each other all the time on Zoom, and we text, and it's cool. Like, I know you have my back, and I have your back. And people, friends in recovery are very special, very tight friends, because we have so much in common. Now, combine that with running and recovery. Now we're like, damn, we're like brothers. We're like, we have so much in common. we could probably talk all day and have so much fun hanging out in person, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Trust me, I've got like a serious case of like FOMO, that I can't be at the retreat. Trust me, I'm gonna get out to California. I'm gonna have to do like this big West Coast tour of all these friends I've made out there. Like, I'll have to come see you. First, I'll fly up north, drag Doug with me out west, and we'll come to SLO. We'll come to see Ohm and Jason, Adam Ture. Like, we've got a whole crew up there. We're gonna have to go see on the West Coast. I can't wait to get out there.
Yeah. Hey,
I'll
let me
definitely
tell
be at
you
the
one
next
more
retreat.
thing. Yeah, for
Yeah, go
sure.
ahead.
About Triple R that's new as of this year. We just got into charity bibs, which is really cool. So we've been a 501c3 nonprofit for 3 years, which is the requirement for most big races. And so up until this point, they're like, well, are you at the 3 year mark? And I'm like, no, I'm only at 2. So this July we hit 3 years. And so we put our hat in for the Boston bib, the New York, the Chicago. We got a lot of like, oh, you just missed the deadline, like you're too late or you're too small. But we have secured charity bibs, and we have charity runners running for Team Recovery Roadrunners. And it's amazing. We're raising money to provide free coaching, free resources, free running shoes, and free race entries to runners in recovery who need the extra help and who show dedication and commitment to their sobriety and to our group. So we love to give back in the form of scholarships. And you're one of our charity runners. Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you for that. So you can see Joe at recoveryroadrunners.org under the charity runners page. So we've secured bibs for Big Sur. Oh yeah, Big Sur 2025 is our big one. It's going to be amazing. I'm actually going to train my butt off for that race after this 100-mile attempt. But we've got, because we're in California, so I've got a bunch of races lined up in the Bay Area for my Bay Area friends. We've got Flying Pig in Cincinnati and the Queen Bee. And if you're listening
Rad.
and you live like in Cincinnati or in the Bay Area, let me know. I also have charity bibs for the Seattle Marathon on December 1st. And trying to think if I'm forgetting, but go to recoveryroadrunners.org and click on charity runners, and you'll see the races that we've partnered with, and you can be on our team.
We are going to have to try and get charity bibs for the Monumental Marathon here in Indianapolis. I just not thought, like, I know a friend of a friend of a friend that we could probably talk to about that. That'd be super rad to get an Indiana Triple R charity bib. But yeah, that'd be so
Yeah.
cool. So
I
that's
can't
amazing.
move on before saying congrats to Benny. Benny ran the Pikes Peak Half Marathon in Colorado this past weekend. So he was our official first charity runner. So if you don't know that race, it is super hard. It's like a 14,000 footer. I'm probably not explaining it right, but it's some serious, like at altitude race with a whole bunch of vertical gain. Benny killed it, you guys.
Yeah, absolutely crushed it. And yeah, you said 14,000 feet. This is like basically running straight up a mountain. Like I
Yeah.
saw his Strava and I was like, holy shit, that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, Benny crushed
So
it.
check this out. Vinny said that next year he's going to run the marathon. So you run to the summit and then you run down. And he's trying to get me to do the marathon with him, but we actually have different ideas of what's fun and what races that we would like to sign up for. I don't see that as fun. I like more like the San Diego Rock and Roll Marathon. I ran that one 6 years in a row. Like I like to do the local trail runs and stuff, but he seeks out the hardest races that there are. And I'm like, no, I don't find that fun. Like, don't make me do it.
Oh man, yeah, Benny. That's that's amazing. So so we had so we had, you have the charity runners. You do scholarships, but we had, like, obviously. Can you run us through all the meetings you do too? So also do a lot of master classes. You just got done doing a bunch of master classes, like nutrition. Like, just run us through all the master classes you do.
Yeah, I love to host wellness workshops and master classes. So the next one that I'm going to launch is for new runners in sobriety, and it's run your first mile sober. So, because I get a lot of questions from people, they're like, how do I start running? I haven't ran in years. How do I get back into it? And it's a hot topic. Like, how do you even get started with an exercise routine if you've been out for so many years? So, this is going to be run a mile without stopping. And just giving people the foundational skills and to build a consistent routine and to just lace up those shoes every single day and get going without getting injured, without losing motivation, without getting burnt out, right? Because we want them to build this new habit into their life and to start to see the benefits of running before they're like, oh, this sucks, this is too hard, and then they quit and then they never come back. Um, so I love to teach about nutrition. I'm a vegan, you're a vegan. I love to talk about food. Cooking is one of my passions, and I've seen huge gains in the past 2 years since I've been vegan. And so I love to teach people about plant powered nutrition and how that benefits sobriety and running. It's always tied back into sobriety and running. I teach a workshop on stress relief. I teach a workshop on mindset. There's all different topics, but the three main themes are sobriety, running, and mindset. And so everything kind of falls under those three pillars. And what I love about these meetings is people come on there and we're all in the Zoom room, and I run it like a classroom, as you know, as a classroom teacher would. So I'll do a little bit of teaching, and then I'll put them in the breakout rooms and they can interact with each other and talk, and then we'll come back together as a group and we'll discuss. So I like to run them as very interactive style so that people, they can come off mute and talk to people and meet people, because that's what it's all about. We're all looking for new friends, and like you see somebody on the Zoom room and you're like, oh, I want to be friends with them. So yeah, I like to make it very engaging and very welcoming. I like to keep it fresh, you know, because a lot of us are used to going to like AA or like a very serious sobriety meeting. And like, this is not like that. This is not like, I want people to know, like, we have a lot of fun. Like, be prepared to laugh and have fun and tell stories. And there's a time and a place for being serious and going deep into like some of the tougher issues. And we do that too. But it's a good mixture of both.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of fun in those Zoom rooms. Like you said, making friends. I still talk to, I mean, all you guys that I met, and I took a chance and entered a Zoom room, right? So, and the rest is history, I guess now. So, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for all that, and honestly, just thank you for creating this group. It's I you know, I've been sober for a few years, but I struggled with like kind of a sense of identity. Even when I was drinking, I didn't really. I struggled with like an identity, like where I fit in. And I think that's why I drank. Right? I was like, I could like chameleon my way into groups. So sober, I'm just like, I don't know what I'm like, who I am, or you know, I run like so. Finding recovery roadrunners was you know, eye opening. I'm like, wow, like there's others like me that do this kind of stuff, and so yeah, just thank you. I mean, all that to say thank you. It's been great being a part of the group. It's really wild to see how it's grown. I can't say that enough because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just like exploded since I've been in that group. Thank you
No,
for letting me be part of the podcast. I mean, I love talking with Doug every chance I get. Me and that guy together. I mean, man, he's got some good stuff to say. That's for sure. So
yeah. And I just got to say, you know, we are expanding, and I want people to know, like, to the listeners of your audience, you don't have to be a rock bottom drunk to want to stop drinking. If you're sober curious, or even if you realize that you're hungover once a week and you don't like it, or you got a little bit of extra weight and it's probably from the beer, right? Everybody out here is listening. You're a triathlete or a runner, or definitely some sort of an athlete. It's a fact that alcohol is not serving you. It's not. So just, I mean, just hearing that, if you could just open your mind just for a second and be really curious about it and ask yourself, I wonder how my life would change if I quit drinking for a week, for a month, right? And just maybe experiment with it. I love to challenge people to go sober for 30 days and see how they feel,
Oh
because
yeah,
they
sober
lose
October.
weight, they start sleeping better, they start running better. They're like, oh my God, even just a couple drinks a week, here and there, it makes me feel tired and grumpy and anxious and like depressed, and it kind of like ruins the next day, right? Wouldn't it be great to just let all of that go? So I invite anybody and everybody to just go sober for a week or 30 days and just give it a try. And you don't have to say like, oh, I have a drinking problem, or oh, I'm sober. You can just say like, I'm doing an experiment, like to see if my running improves, right? Because I know a lot of sober people, so I'm going alcohol free. And there's tons of resources out there, so you don't have to wonder how to do it. But I promise you, you're going to feel so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so what do you think? What do you think the future of Triple R will be? Like, how do you envision it growing, um, going forward? Actually,
That's a great question. So we need funding. Riding a bike hungover is an awful feeling. Oh,
I
I
have
can
done.
only
I have
imagine.
done that. I can say I have done that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Well, we need funding because I've written two programs that live on my computer inside Google Doc, and I need funding to bring these projects of mine to life. So, one of them is for our children and our grandchildren, and the other one is for people that are in recovery. So, I see recovery as like a whole family dynamic, right? Because when we get sober, we're helping ourselves, but we're helping everyone around us, especially our kids. And that's why I got sober in the first place. So, being a teacher, I love to write programs, and I'm looking for a grant or many grants. So, I'm always on Grant Watch applying for grants. I'm looking for donations from, celebrity endorsements would be good. I just wrote like Dax Shepard an email, and I applied to Oprah Winfrey Foundation, and I'm like, pick me, because we really need funding in order to make like a bigger impact. There's a lot of stuff to pay for that I've been paying for out of my own pocket for 4 years. And so sponsorships, donations, grant money. It would be amazing to receive funding and then be able to say, okay, now we can make a bigger difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. And anybody out there listening, couldn't be a better group to sponsor or support. So yeah, something you talked about a little bit earlier, and something I think we have to talk. If we're in the same room, right, we have to talk about going plant based. Um, so let's talk about your plant. Let's talk about your plant based journey too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, this is actually the third time that I've been vegan in my life. And the first time I went vegan goes all the way back to the Boston Marathon. Okay. So I was like 21 years old. I started to gain weight, and I thought it was the food that I was eating, and it probably was, and the alcohol. So I said, I'm going to go vegan, and I'm going to get in really good shape for the Boston Marathon. So I was vegan for a couple years in my 20s, and then I'm like, oh, this isn't working. I don't think I was really doing it right. I think I was eating a lot of vegan junk food. And so I did not get the results that I wanted, and I quit. Now, 10 years later, I decided to try it again, and I was vegan for about 2 years, in my mid 30s. And then COVID hit, and I was like, oh no, I can't get to the store to like buy my produce. And so I took the easy way out and I quit on it again. But 2 years into sobriety, I met Vinny, and he was vegan. And so I was all, I should try that again. Like, he's doing good, like for himself. And so that's all that it took, was like somebody saying that they were vegan, and it sparked my interest again. And here we are 2 years later. Like, I lost the last 15 pounds. I literally eat whatever I want that's vegan. But I love cooking and trying new recipes. So I'm very, very intentional now about everything I eat and everything I drink. So I love to cook. I always have something in the Instant Pot, in the air fryer, on the stove. Um, I like vegan richa. I like Indian food. I like a lot of curry. We'll do like burrito bowls, always a big salad, tons of fruit. Of course, tofu. Like, I mean, I don't know. We never get bored because, lucky for Vinny, I love to cook, and so I actually have created a recipe book for sober runners, which is in my shop, and it's just full of like amazing recipes. You can never get bored, and people are like, "Oh, but it's so expensive. Oh, it's so confusing. Oh, like where do you get your protein?" And I would say, look, it's cheaper to buy plants than it is to buy steak or salmon or shrimp. Like you're going to save money. And you can make it really, really simple. Like treat yourself like a kid. Go back to oatmeal, peanut butter and jelly, and rice and beans, right? So, I mean, you've just got to learn a few basic techniques in order to make vegan work for you. And it's so simple and it's delicious. It's the best. I love it.
What I saw something you were cooking yesterday. It looked like a butternut squash like curry skillet. What was that? I just saw it in like your Instagram story, and I was just like, "What is this?" Like, I saw butternut squash, but I couldn't tell what the rest of it was. But
So
it looked like a curry.
it was actually chickpeas in peanut butter sauce.
Ooh,
But
okay. It
yeah,
looked really
it
good.
was so delicious. But I do make a lot of curry. I love pumpkin curry. I've made butternut squash curry, red lentil curry, lots of curry. So I have a rice cooker. You can easily make like a pot of brown rice or white rice to go with any of your meals. But just get like all the colors of the rainbow in your kitchen and it never gets old.
Never gets old. I do a lot of like I get stuck in like kind of like a pattern where I just like I meal prep a bunch of tofu and rice for the week, but then the weekend I like to mix. I like to start mixing things up. I get really serious about my salads. I like to share this with a lot of people, but I call my salads BFSs. It's a big freaking salad. Like I'll make a salad that fills my whole commute pack up to work. It's like this torso sized tub with like a snap lid, and I just like fill it. Like I like to play a game where I try to put as many colors as I can into that bowl. So
Yeah.
like carrots and like Campari tomatoes and spinach and lettuce and tofu or like roasted chickpeas and like all that good stuff and just like this one big nasty salad. But so yeah, so I think I went vegan too around COVID. Well, so I had a cubicle neighbor that was vegan, and I was like, oh, one of those, like because he was like eating like kale chips or something. I'm like, oh, one of those vegan people, aren't you? And he's just like, and then it turns out that he was a woodworker, so we got along, and he was a runner, so we got along. He goes, I want a book and I want you to try doing plant-based lunches only for a month. So I ate lunches for a month and read Finding Ultra by Rich Roll. I didn't know who Rich Roll was, and honestly, the intro of the book kind of like he starts off on a chapter where he's talking about going vegan, and it kind of pissed me off a little bit because it like if you're not vegan, you take it as like I took it wrong, reading what Rich Roll has to say about not being plant-based or whatever. But then I read that book and I was just like, holy crap, like so much of my like this guy's story reminds me of my story. Obviously I wasn't a Stanford elite swimmer, but but so yeah, I took the plunge around the same time you did, I guess, for my first and hopefully final time. It started off, I went vegan for health. I guess plant-based, I would say. But it's become more than just it's become more than just health. It's become a kind of a more like it's shifting into more of a moral thing now because as I've continued to be plant-based, I've learned more about farming and like how they handle certain agricultural things. So I'm here to stay, and And I always enjoyed watching what you're cooking and what you're sharing on Triple R. So um, yeah, so
Yeah.
so
And
we're
Jason says that
yeah.
Ethiopian food is amazing, and I'll have to agree with that. We went to an Ethiopian restaurant and we ordered like four different things, and it came out on this beautiful platter. And I forget what their bread is called, but it lines the tray, and you can actually eat the entire thing, and it is delicious. It was like
Oh,
one of them
okay.
was lentils, and another one was like split peas, and then I forget. It was great. But if you want to know more about going plant based, there's a great movie out there for athletes, and it's called Game Changers. You have to watch Game Changers because the doctors and the scientists are really great at explaining why this is the best diet for athletes. And they go over the whole protein myth. They tell you like which foods to eat if you're worried about protein, but they also show you great examples of athletes who are the world's biggest, toughest bodybuilders, the best football players. There's a really cool story in that movie about this NFL player and his wife. Like, she's this big celebrity chef now. She's all plant-based. So going plant-based doesn't mean giving up on good food. Like, you can
Oh
have
no.
vegan mac and cheese, there's vegan nachos, vegan burgers, vegan burritos, there's vegan cheese, there's vegan sour cream. Anything you want, you can find plant-based in your local grocery store now. It's never been easier so Game Changers is what you guys need to watch tonight.
Yeah, it's a really great documentary. Highly recommend. Heck, you can. I found vegan chicken tenders like a few weeks ago. I'm just like, every once in a while, I want to eat like a 12-year-old and get like sweet potato tots and Gardein chicken tenders, but chicken
Yeah.
tenders.
Totally.
Uh,
There's this local restaurant called Ziggy's. Hey, what's up, Ziggy's? And it's like vegan junk food, but they have the vegan chicken strips. Even my kids like it. Okay. They're 7 and 8, and they're going to eat this vegan chicken, and they think it's better than McDonald's. And I'm like, wow, that's saying something.
oh
Um,
yeah, they're so good.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I forgot I was going with that. Now I'm hungry. It's like 10 o'clock my time. Now, now I'm thinking about having sweet potato
Make, your,
tots and tenders.
make yourself a vegan shake.
Just yeah, maybe I'll have to have a little shake.
Or
I always like to
like,
I've been thinking about making roasted chickpea salad for like 3 days, so maybe I'll make that happen tomorrow.
dude,
So
I
as for
wanted to ask you a question. Can I do
yeah,
that?
yeah, go ahead, of
Okay, so,
course.
so we're both training for basically a 100-mile race. Let's talk about our training and see
Yeah,
like
yeah, let's
what's
get to
the
that.
same and what's different.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Well, okay. So our goal is to reach 24 hours at the Backyard Ultra. But Vinny said he wants to go like past that. So we're not going to stop at 100 miles. Hopefully, we're going to keep going. But I've never run this much in my entire life. And I heard you say on the last podcast with Doug, like, this is like a part-time job now, because we're running so much. So a couple months ago, I kind of peaked too early, and we went out and we did a mock backyard ultra. That's the weekend that we ran like 45 miles during the
Yeah,
backyard trial, and I ended up with like 75 miles that week, which is a lot for me. I'm more of like a 40 to 50 miles per week runner. So 75 miles, my feet were like, nope.
yeah.
So I was worried that I had like gotten like plantar fasciitis. I was kind of limping around a lot. Luckily, that only stuck around for a couple weeks. I babied it, and I reduced my mileage a lot, and it went away. Thank God. So now I'm back up to like between 50 and 60 most weeks with like a down week. So we're trying to run like 8 to 10 miles every day with like back-to-back long runs on the weekends. And it's a lot, man. It's like
Oh
2 hours
yeah.
every day. It's like half the day on the weekend, like Saturday and Sunday is like multiple showers. So this is my new thing, which I love. This year, my kids ride bikes to school. So we take them to school, we run, and they ride their bike, and then we keep running. Then I go to work. I work at home. And so when it's time to pick them up from school, I run to school and pick them up again. So this new system that I
Oh,
have
nice.
to increase my mileage naturally. And I'm like, oh, this is really fun. Like, I don't have to wait in the drop off line, the pickup line. Like, I don't have to sit in my car for 30 minutes and then 30 minutes. And I'm using that time running. So it's super rad. I encourage all the listeners to find extra ways to increase their mileage. Like, if you got to go to the store, like, we like to bring a backpack and fill it up with as many groceries as we can and like run back, or we'll take our bikes sometimes. But long story short, we're increasing our mileage as much as we can while still avoiding injury, man.
That's tough. Like I had a 70-mile week back in June, and I was just like, that is way too much. Same thing. That's just too much for my feet. Like I don't know how to explain it. Just like the bottom of my feet were just, I don't know, just felt like they had been slapped with like a board like all week long. But yeah, I of course, like I run commute sometimes. I cycle commute, so I get some extra mileage. I think I'm roughly about the same, 40, 50 miles a week. It just, I have like a deload week too, but I'm getting ready to start tapering. Perfect timing because I feel this past week I obviously love running, but like I said to a few people, I haven't always liked it the last couple of weeks because it feels like I'm running, sleeping, eating, going to work, and then repeating. But I'm ready for this taper. I've never been so ready for a taper, but my fitness feels really really good, and I haven't been paying attention to my data whatsoever. But I took some time today and like reviewed it, and I'm getting faster. My easy is getting easier. My tempo runs. I notice my heart rate is. I do a lot of zone 2 stuff. Zone 2 is like my thing. Like I think you're the same way, right? Like the 80-20 principle, like a lot of zone 2 stuff. Um, so even my easy runs, my heart rate's real nice and low. So I think I'm ready. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've
you
only
are.
I've only been 65.12 miles. I just have to go another 35 miles, right? So
What's another 50K?
right. Yeah, I was just getting started. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
I'm
so cool.
jazzed.
I can't wait to watch you crush that,
Oh
man,
yeah.
and just take Vinny's words and run with them. And you know what to do. You already did 100K. You've trained, you did the work, and now you trust the training, right? The
Yeah.
hay is in the barn.
The
And
hay is in the
I
barn.
think it's what you said, like when you start to lose the joy of running, that's when like you got to tone it down a little bit. And that's okay sometimes, because comparison is the death of joy, right? If you're looking on Strava at how much everybody else is running, and you see runners on there that are running 90 miles a week, 100 miles a week, and you're like, oh, I should be running 90 miles a week. Like, why am I not running 90? No, like, not everybody is built for that. Not everybody is
Nope.
meant to do a super high mileage. Not everybody can run 7 minute, 8 minute miles every day. It's, yeah, Jason says low volume runner here. Yeah,
Yeah.
every body is different. Like, we all have our individual preferences and in capabilities, and our body, we know what our bodies can handle. And yes, we're always pushing them to the max, but we got to be smart about it too, because I mean, I got my first stress fracture last year, and it took me out of the game for 100 days. And I was depressed, man. I was like, now what am I going to do? I can't run. And what I did was I did a lot of cycling and weightlifting to pass the time and stay in decent shape. But yes, I do a lot of zone 2. Right now, it's been probably like 90-10, like mostly zone 2. I like to do some strides. We're always running hills. And so I get my heart rate up there on the trails. We love running trails. It's like the best to run up the mountain and then look over the valley. We can see the ocean from summit,
Hills pay the
and
bills.
that's like, this is why I run.
That's right. That's what it's all about. I just want to be able to run as far like I just want to be able to run many many miles in the woods. Like that's my why right there right now. I'm just ready for what could be possibly be 30 hours in the woods, right? So I look
Hey,
forward to that.
if you ask me and Vinny to do that, we would likely say yes. We are up for adventures, man. Jason says hills pay the bills. Yes, they
That's
do.
no kidding.
Don't neglect your hill training. I mean, that is like built-in strength training and speed training right there.
Absolutely. Well, Amber, these are never long enough. I'm gonna have to have you back on because Triple R isn't going anywhere. It's just gonna get bigger. So we're gonna have more stuff to talk about. I'm a proud member, so I'm absolutely gonna have Amber back on. And Amber, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing all this. Thank you for all you do with Triple R, with the running community, with the sobriety community, sober cures community. It means a lot that you came on today. And thank you so much for your time. And I just want to say thank you so much for anybody that tuned in. Like I said, please like, share, rate, review the podcast. Also, do yourself a favor. Check out Recovery Roadrunners. It's a great group. You won't regret being a part of it. And I thank you all so much for tuning in and listening. And I will see you next time beyond the finish line.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.